What's up everyone, LibThims here. So anyway, yesterday I threw a lit house party.
Hi, I'm Ed. And I'm Josh. And this is how to have a lit house party.
The main thing is you want to get the steam fire.
Today, in continuation, we're going to talk about thermal words. Phrases such as the warmth of love, the heat of passion, or the spark of world wars. And whether there is any underlying reality to these terms, or alternatively, if they are but just amusing analogies.
Yeah, it's already gone. Yeah, that's the zoom.
Using the following comparison, when a man reacts with woman to form a couple, a baby, and generates the warmth of family, is that the same physical-chemical heat as when wood reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water vapor? Or is this just a quaint analogy?
So you do a widow?
To go through quickly, one example of where someone has stated as a matter of fact that social heat is not an analogy but in fact a reality is American sociologist Henry Finck, who in his 1858 Principles of Social Science says on page 200, in the inorganic world, every act of combination is an act of motion, the various particles exchanging with each other their respective properties. So it is in the social one. Every act of association being an act of motion, ideas being given out and taken in, services being rendered and accepted, and commodities and things being exchanged. He goes on to state, if it is true that there is but one system of laws for the government of all matter, then those which govern the movements of the various inorganic bodies should be the same with those by which is regulated the motion of society. In 1962, Werner Stark greatly objected to this point of view. He says that Carey's idea that people are human molecules and that the rubbing together of human molecules, as Carey refers to the thing, generates social heat, just as when a match is struck on the ground, is a downright absurdity, he says, and that when Carey states these views, he's an example of someone back in their straitjacket. Once the party got going, I was planning on asking the famous, albeit very controversial, so-called Buchner question, as shown here. Namely, does man react with woman like hydrogen reacts with oxygen? Ludwig Buchner he's ranked as an extreme atheist. He wrote Force and Matter in 1855. He says man reacts with woman just as hydrogen reacts with oxygen. This is the modern.
Just zoom around there, zoom in, zoom out, and then turn around like this. Someone talks away. Really? So just start out with me in the fire.
At 1:30 a.m., before asking the Buchner question, I had everyone do a tequila toast around the fire to help loosen the lips of conversation.
Life is a bitch, and death is her sister. Sleep is the present with a funny picture. You know Father Time, we all know Mother Nature. It's all in the
The reason being, to cite an example of this seemingly innocuous question, Buchner was fired from his job as a physics professor in Germany for expounding on these views in the form of the book Force and Matter, or Principles of the Natural Order of the Universe with a System of Morality based thereon, which famously became known as the biggest atheist Bible of the 19th century.
Oh my God.
special was handed to all my soldiers over there.
To cite one example, on page 25 he says, in gunpowder, unsatisfied chemical affinities lie side by side. Chemical affinities, if you don't know, are the microforces exchanged between people or between smaller atoms and molecules. He says, so soon as the ignited spark reaches it, the chemical differences are compensated, and heat, light, and mechanical energy are given forth. So the question is Is the heat that's given off when gunpowder ignites the same heat as when couples spark relationships on Tinder? Or is this comparison just a coincidental analogy with no substantial connection?
Ooh, Laura. She's 21 years old, guys. Looking for a guy. Damn, boy. You must be my GPA because I know I can do better. I'm just too lazy to actually try. That's so true. That's me. Laura's relatable. I might just hit up Laura just because we kind of relate on grades.
It's a real simple question. Does the heat that's going on over here when the wood burns with the oxygen, is that the same heat when man reacts with woman and gives off heat? Whether it's argument, friction, passionate love, people going to war like we go to war with Korea. Wait.
So there we saw everybody give out the quick knee-jerk answer, yes. But when you start digging into people, you'll see that the yes answer will conflict with some of humankind's most deeply ingrained beliefs. Said another way, are the reactions on the left governed by one nature, namely physics and chemistry, whereas those on the right are governed by a second nature in the form of things such as higher powers, free will, spiritual energy, living forces, or the will of God, etc. Or, conversely, are they both governed by the same nature, as Goethe famously said in 1809?
Juliana, come on stage. Come in front of the camera. You spoke first.
Now let's take a look at some audience answers, see what we get.
I don't think it's the same type of heat. I think it's a different hormonal type of heat.
All right, Lisa thinks over here it's hormones, and this is physics and chemistry. Different heat.
All right, so there's Lisa's answer. She says that it's different heat because over here it's hormones, whereas over here there's no hormones involved. This is loosely in the neighborhood of correctness in some sense, in that studies of rats have shown that prior to females coming into heat and becoming more sexually flirtatious, their estrogen levels rise, which is the female hormone. But this is only a micro way of looking at things, a micro mechanism way, in that heat is a big picture view of things, in that we can measure heat with a thermometer or calorically measured in SI units in this system and this system.
I think that it's a fucking analogy, bro. Like, it's like fire's burning and it creates heat. Fucking there's passion between a man and a woman and they create a baby. Can't really fucking like connect that. Wait, let me get my answer.
So Thor's answer is, I think the comparison is an analogy. It's like the fire's burning and it creates heat. There's passion between a man and woman and they create a baby. You can't really connect that. So to clarify that you can really connect these two phenomena, over here we have the hydrocarbon thing called wood reacting with the thing we call oxygen. And their reaction actuates such that prior to ignition their valence electrons are in a state such that if they reacted they would be at a more stable state afterwards, producing upon ignition, whether by intensified light on leaves or rubbing wood together, as the Indians used to do, water vapor and carbon dioxide gas in the form of the combustion reaction shown here. Likewise, in reality, this hydrocarbon thing we call man, comprised of carbon, hydrogen, and 24 other elements, reacts with this hydrocarbon thing we call woman, comprised of carbon, hydrogen, and 24 elements, to form a couple or dihumanate molecule and another newly formed hydrocarbon thing called an infant, giving off heat, albeit less intensified in variety as this reaction, in the form of an exothermic reaction. In short, both of these are exothermic reactions, and physical-chemical heat is produced in each.
I hope this heat brings us all together, just like nature brings us all together for a baby shower, brings us all together for a birth, brings us all together for a one-year-old birthday party. This heat right here brings us all together because we're all hot, we're all hot, we're all fire, we're all lit. We lit this fire right here.
He doesn't even go here.
I don't know what the fuck this shit is, right? Warming up. Look, this baby to me symbolizes love. You feel me, in a family. And there's some heat. Really good.
Big titties
Is that a cigarette? The same heat that men and women can create together and shit.
Next we've got Kate, who gives the best answer of the evening. You might not be able to hear everything, but we'll clarify as she goes along. She says that the reaction over here is a faster reaction and more controlled reaction than the reaction over here, which is something she learned in biology class, and that a cell is a chemical reaction which is more controlled than a combustion reaction. And she brings up entropy. And to clarify, after 1865 we now define a unit of heat, shown here as the inexact differential dQ, which enters a system as a unit of heat, for example, to make a flower grow, as equivalent to the absolute temperature of the system, measured at the boundary, multiplied by the exact differential unit of entropy. And entropy is now thought of as a measure of the order of the thing, whether a rabbit or a flower. So let's hear what she has to say.
Guys, everybody listen to Kate. Learn a little something while you come here instead of drinking all night.
Shut up!
Okay, everybody hear what she said? She said, I'll say it for her. She said the word entropy. She said humans are an island of entropy.
Shut up!
What I meant to say last night is that the universe is becoming disorganized in both these systems. Entropy is present, but with the fire, it's not controlled, it's destructive. Once a fire is done burning, it's done. But with life, that's a little minimum island of the least possible entropy. It's trying to perpetuate itself. So even though it's experiencing it, it's reproducing. It wants to perpetuate the reaction. This is high entropy, this is low entropy.
And what about between the man and woman are single, and then the stuff at the right side of the arrow, which is different? Which one is different entropy? Are they both the same amount of entropy, or is one higher or lower?
Well, I guess if they're together, then they're perpetuating the reaction, then they're lower entropy because they're trying to preserve order by producing another living organism.
Okay, cool. That's good.